Hey everyone, I'm Steph, and she's Kayla, and we are Margin Mavens. Today's episode is about Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa, and it will be the first installment in our Pride Month series. If you have not read the book and are planning on it, this is your warning that the following video will contain spoilers, but you can always come back once you've read the book. Now, on to the video. We read Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa. It is a Pride and Prejudice remix, basically following the same storyline that we have come to know in Pride and Prejudice, but it is following a trans man named Oliver. He meets Mr. Darcy and is very confused when Mr. Darcy is not so nice.
Correct.
When he is meeting him in a formal ball setting.
Correct.
And comes to find out that this story is incredibly gay. Incredibly gay.
It's so gay.
It's so gay.
I love it so much.
And so it's a historical fiction. And the author does something I think that is really interesting because they stick to the fact that Oliver is being misgendered and misnamed.
Yes.
For a majority of the story.
A lot, yes.
Because he only has a certain amount of people that know. Right? And so we initially chose this story because one, Kayla loves it and has read it multiple times.
And would not shut up about it. Yes, correct.
But also because of June being Pride Month, we are trying to showcase a bunch of fruity little stories for you guys. So what did you think of the story, Kayla?
I loved it. Okay, so confession, I've never actually read the original Pride and Prejudice because it was never anything that I can feel your judgment from all the way over here. It was never anything that really enticed me at all. Well, I heard so many great things about Most Ardently. I was like, I get the general premise of the book. I've heard about Pride and Prejudice between all of the movies and all of that enough to know the premise of the book. But oh my god, Most Ardently is so good. It's so good. It's just it's so cute and it's so sweet at the end. The various ways that Oliver just sort of grows into himself and who he is and embracing that in an 1800s London, which is a huge deal because that was not something that was accepted. And let's be realistic, even in 2024, it's really not all that accepted as much as it should be and ought to be. But it was just the interaction between Oliver and his dad got me every time. Every time I finished the book and I wanted to cry tears of joy because it just healed that little itty bitty part of me. I was like, aw.
Yeah, because I mean, every queer person, especially I think from a Hispanic viewpoint that we both share, the moment that we realize in ourselves that we are not the straight Hispanic daughter, granddaughter, niece, whatever, that we were meant to be in their eyes, it becomes oh, I know that this probably isn't going to end well, or it has a high chance of not ending well.
Correct.
The father made me emotional.
Yeah, it made me super emotional. And just his mom accepting him in the end, and him being so worried about his mom accepting him, and then just having her be like,
"That's why you didn't like dresses."
Yeah, it was just it was so good and so sweet. And I think it's a really good book that kids could and should read.
I agree. Yeah. I went into it having also not read Pride and Prejudice, mind you. Not for lack of wanting to. It just has never been, I think, the proper time for me to dive into it, because classics are obviously a little harder to read, especially when all I'm reading are contemporary things. And so I really enjoyed the fact that you're able to follow along with Oliver as he kind of is trying to find himself within a time and society that was not built for him, and kind of seeing the author's like thoughts and how he crafted how Oliver was going to live this life
Yeah.
was really cool, because it shows that he took a lot of time and care to kind of make it as believable as it could have been, with
Right.
bringing in, I forgot the name of them, but bringing in the like secret clubs
Yes.
and the way that, his second wardrobe had to be at a friend's house. I also think it's incredibly important to point out the conversation that he has with Charlotte, I think her name is, where she is a very, very fruity lesbian, and she has like her love interest and they've been together. But this love interest is married to, I believe, a soldier.
Yeah.
And
A man.
Charlotte, yeah. And so Charlotte very bluntly and almost coldly at times, like I understood where she was coming from, but I think it was a very like painful but necessary conversation, because it added the reality of that time period, and the
Right.
fact that she was like, listen, I would love to marry the woman that I love, but I cannot do that in this society and still have money and have,
Freedom.
prospects.
Yeah.
I think Oliver was in a, I don't want to say like a better position, but because Oliver was a part of a important family that had, wealth and name to them, there was I guess a little less, not pressure, but he knew, I think in the back of his mind, that if he were to be accepted, then like he wouldn't have to worry about the money and stuff like that, because he would be a man in the world.
Correct.
And I think I really enjoyed watching all of those pieces kind of fall into place. The father 100% was my favorite part.
Yes.
I like that
MVP.
he did, yeah, I like that he did a lot without Oliver's knowledge to make sure that when the time came, it would be okay and that he would be taken care of.
Yes.
I am not really a huge fan of historical fictions. This might be a reason that I start reading more of them, because I really did like the mixture of, okay, well, we need to like embellish some things to make it make sense as to how this character can exist in this time, but it still felt authentic and genuine, and not like, oh yeah, everybody in society was okay with it and nobody batted an eye.
Right.
I think it was a good middle ground between the two, and I really appreciated that. Darcy, I think, was really cool. I think the conflict between Darcy and Oliver made a lot of sense, because Oliver had a lot of time to really come to terms with who he was. And I think Darcy was kind of blindsided a little bit when he realized how deeply in love with Oliver he had gotten,
Mm-hmm.
and what that meant for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Oliver had kind of by that point resigned himself to, if people find out, they're not going to like me.
Yes.
Whereas Darcy was like, oh, like I'm already head of my household. Like there was a lot more at play here. So I did like the conflict. I liked communication between the two once they were solving their conflict. That was really nice. But yeah, overall I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a really quick read. But that didn't make it any less impactful
Or enjoyable.
or enjoyable. I highly
If anything,
recommend.
I think it made it more enjoyable because there wasn't a lot of like filler.
Mm-hmm.
Every scene had a purpose and a point. And while I'm not above filler in books and other forms of media, it just there's something about getting to the point that was extremely satisfying in this book, because it was more about, coming to terms with who you are and being out and loud and proud about who you are and finding that acceptance, which was really, really nice.
Yeah, I think it's also like a really good hope giver in the fact that if this fictional character could make it work during his time period,
Right.
and kind of like defy the odds of that time period, I think there's a nice touching story of everybody deserving to live authentically and be, who they are and who they know they are, despite whatever scrutiny they might get by the people around them. So that was really nice. So we kind of have a bunch of plans in the works for you guys. We are currently reading A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. That will probably be coming out sometime this month as well, because like we said, we are trying to showcase a lot of different fruity stories for you guys for Pride Month. So that's kind of our big plan that's coming out, as well as the Percy Jackson reread that we were talking about, as well as some newer stories that we will keep to ourselves until the time comes.
I'm excited about. I may or may not have gotten a couple of those books in the mail.
Nice. We love book mail.
I love book mail.
I love book mail.
So thank you for listening to our third episode of Margin Mavens, where we talked about Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa. Since it is Pride Month, we will be highlighting more LGBTQIA plus stories over the course of the next few weeks. Stay tuned and stay gay, and if no one has told you this today, you are loved and you matter.